So the House may be on recess until the new year, but two top committee chairmen are still pressing along in the impeachment inquiry of President Biden. Oversight Chair James Comer, Judiciary Chair Jim Jordan are now looking into what influence, if any, President Biden had about his son Hunter's plan to defy two House subpoenas. Now, in a letter, they want to inquire, quote, whether the president engaged in a conspiracy to obstruct proceedings of Congress, an impeachable offense. They go on to say the Republicans zeroing in on these comments from the White House press secretary after Hunter defied the subpoena. So watch this.
The president was certainly familiar with what his son was going to say, and I think what you saw was from the heart from his son.
So, Tiana, you mentioned this earlier in the last hour. So, obviously, we know that they had communications. And if President Biden, as a father, was talking to Hunter and saying, don't worry about that congressional subpoena, don't show up, that might be an issue as well. And that's what Comer and Jordan want to know. Is that what he did?
I mean, Republicans are in a bind because is this the most important thing right now? No, we still have 17% higher prices than when Biden took office. Israel, Ukraine. But is this still a massive potential criminal probe into Joe Biden himself? Yes, and it would be a dereliction of duty if there wasn't an exploration of it. And the polls are in favor of this probe simply because as the evidence continues to come out, the Hunter Biden's legal team has been talking not just to Joe Biden's personal legal team, but also the DOJ, right? Getting that sweetheart deal that got blown up. And now Hunter Biden faces actual jail time for his tax offenses and whatnot. And it just further compounds the idea that Joe Biden is no longer just sweet, innocuous Uncle Joe, but rather, is he senile or is he corrupt, or are the American people determining this? He's just a miasma of negative feelings, and that's why you're seeing his approval ratings cratering to south of 40%.
But the question with Jordan and Comer is, do you think that this is a stretch to go for something that's an impeachable offense because of this particular issue? This is not about the business dealings with China and Ukraine. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about specifically this instance of him interfering with his son to defy the subpoena. That's my question.
It seems as though everything that they're doing is just to use the same rules that Democrats used against Donald Trump. They just want to use against Democrats, right? Because in that first impeachment, one of the articles of impeachment against Trump with the whole Ukraine proceedings was obstruction of Congress, which legal scholars on both sides of the aisle recognize that's not a thing. Obstruction of Congress is not an impeachable offense. And also, if Joe Biden knew that Hunter was not going to answer that subpoena, Hunter could clearly be in very real legal jeopardy. But is that an impeachable offense of Joe Biden's? Probably not. But I see the game they want to play, but it's kind of play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Well, and, John, this is what I was saying earlier, is that, as you move into an election year, that's where you have to be careful about what sword do you want to pick up and fight with at this point? They've taken so much time, especially Comer, so much time to specifically come up with real evidence and facts about Hunter Biden and his business dealings. Do you take this chance now to try and find something on President Biden? I don't know if this is it or not. I guess my question.
I think you might be able to make some case that the Biden family's dealings with China in some way endanger the security of the United States. I don't know. Maybe that's a stretch.
But this is the congressional subpoena.
I think Americans are just getting tired of these impeachments. I mean, there was that silly impeachment of Bill Clinton over the Monica Lewinsky matter. We had this with Donald Trump that really didn't have a sound foundation. And here we're going with Joe Biden because of his son Hunter, his dealings. I think Americans are tired of it. I think you and Tiana are right. They want the Congress to focus, the Republican Congress to focus on the issues, what matters to the American people. What type of program are you going to offer us that's superior to whatever we're getting from the Democrats?
Yeah, and focus on the border and focus on the funding
international,
international issues,
the ridiculousness of going ahead and giving $6 billion to the Iranians in exchange for 6 prisoners.
That's a whole other story.